which one is better?
We may have a new contender for best day at work ever.
Welcome to Drive Review. In this episode, we give you a comprehensive comparison of the BYD Dolphin, GWM Ora and MG4 electric hatchbacks. But first, let's get into some rugged terrain with the hardcore Nissan Patrol Warrior.
The Nissan Patrol is going out with a bang with this current generation model, and it's an Australian-only special. There's new springs front and rear, retuned dampers and adjustments to the hydraulic body motion control system. This is joined by 34.5-inch Yokohama all-terrain tyres, and you get a total increase of 50 mils in ride height and ground clearance. There's a 120 kilo GVM upgrade, which helps to account for the 72 kilo increase in curb weight, and that makes for a 48 kilo bump in payload overall. There's a red bash plate up front and an upgraded exhaust system which has two AMG style side exit pipes on top of the regular rear exit. So while this Patrol can still sound relatively docile at times, it can also burst into a loud, angry and aggressive bark that, if you love V8s, is deeply satisfying. Under the bonnet is the same 5.6 litre petrol V8, which uses no electric assistance or forced induction to make 298 kilowatts and 560 newton meters. This runs through a 7-speed automatic gearbox and clutch-based all-wheel drive system with a low-range transfer case. The rear diff is both helically limited slip and a locking unit, and there's also independent suspension at all four corners. At the back of the Patrol Warrior, there isn't maybe as much going on, but there are some things to talk about. The tow bar is smartly designed and you do actually have room for a full-size spare. One thing you can't see as well with this car is that it has had a GVM upgrade. It's only 120 kilograms and it does account for, I suppose, the extra weight of this car as it is standard, adding big wheels and tyres, especially all-terrain tyres with a light truck construction. That does add a lot of weight to a vehicle with some protection as well, but the GVM upgrade covers that. You've actually got around 90 kilos of extra payload now with this Patrol Warrior. And finally, you've got two big recovery points on the back here, nice and sturdy, and that's where you want them, right? Because of course, you're not going to be getting bogged in this thing. You're going to be using these to pull out all your mates. The 50 mils of extra ground clearance gives this Patrol a relatively massive claimed ground clearance of 323 millimeters, which is a huge number, and in reality it is quite impressive, and it's significantly more than what you'd get with a 300 series Land Cruiser. This is particularly evident at the back because a Land Cruiser has a low hanging live axle at the back. The Patrol does not. And while this Patrol did prove to be no doubt one of the most capable standard four-wheel drives that money can buy, some of the enjoyment in driving this off-road is robbed by the sheer size of the vehicle. A 40-degree approach angle of the Patrol is very impressive, but the 23.3-degree departure angle is hamstrung by the larger rear overhang of this 8-seat four-wheel drive. The hydraulic body motion control system, or HBMC, means the Patrol goes without traditional sway bars, but body roll is instead controlled by a hydraulic system that connects the forward dampers, and it's a bit of an interlinked system. The benefits for clearance with no live axles is obvious here, but the level of articulation and stability that you get from the Patrol is quite impressive. Whoa man, look how steep this rock step is we're about to take on. Whoa dude. Just kidding, it's actually, in real life, it is pretty steep. Always watch for the trees in the background. That's the trick to see if they're bunging it on the camera. But anyway, we're gonna try and take this Patrol up this step. It's bloody steep actually. We might have to go around here. We'll see how it goes.
Stay tuned for more excitement as we put the Nissan Patrol Warrior through its paces. Welcome back to Drive Review. Coming up, we'll be comparing cost-effective electric cars with the BYD Dolphin, GWM Ora and MG4. But first, let's continue our off-roading adventure with the Nissan Patrol Warrior.
This gearing doesn't feel too bad when you're going forward because the engine's so lazy and torquey. The throttle is pretty relaxed as well. You can just mosey up to some big rock steps like these, ease your way into things. Chances are you've got enough clearance to take them on as well, because this thing is so good for clearance. I'm going to turn on my locking diff because I don't want to get out of shape on these rocks. Turn that on. Now let's see how slowly I can crawl up here now. Definitely feel the size of the vehicle and the weight as well. This is a big car, so probably the biggest disadvantage of the Patrol is just how big and heavy it is. But I've got to say, once you get your bearings, this thing feels super duper capable. Now I've got a really big rock step in front of me here. I don't know how this is going to go, to be honest with you. Being such a big vehicle with a big wheelbase also means the turning circle isn't fantastic. This certainly isn't the most manoeuvrable off-roader I've driven. If you're coming from a Jimny or a short wheelbase Wrangler, you'll get a rude shock in this thing. Let's see how we go here. Perhaps taking on this challenge head-on isn't fair for the Patrol because it was hampered a little bit by the long wheelbase, reduced departure angle and the location of the side exhausts in terms of ground clearance. We made a couple of attempts to get up here but had to readjust our approach as we bottomed out at the rear a little bit and also on the exhaust. And as you can see, the turning circle of the Patrol Warrior does mean you require a little bit of patience in tight situations like this. But let's give credit where credit's due, because a Land Cruiser 300 series, not even a GR Sport, would come close to clearing these rock steps and climbs like the Patrol did. Well, we did make it up there eventually. We had to really maneuver this car around a little bit to get it around the sharp edges there. This thing was starting to bottom out. We did have some clearance issues because of the big wheelbase. For reference, we did get a short wheelbase Wrangler Rubicon up a tougher part of this challenge. Certainly not the toughest part. That's a bit crazy on the other end, but this did do pretty well. Don't forget, this is an 8-seat large 4-wheel drive. It's an absolute monster, so maybe it's out of its comfort zone a little bit doing stuff like this, but once we had enough clearance, plenty of grip, absolutely, and the underbody clearance is no problem at all. So we did manage to get it up there around the edge, but I say not too bad for the big Patrol Warrior. I've always had a big soft spot for the big Nissan Patrol over the years, but this Warrior Triton has taken it to another level, I think. It's worth more money these days, but for me, this is definitely the model to buy or look at. The upgrades are quality. They make this vehicle a better off-roader, and it's still got a huge amount of space and that awesome V8 under the bonnet, which thankfully you can now hear even better. It sounds awesome and it goes quite well. If you're looking for something that can do some really fun rock crawling, maybe this isn't the vehicle for you, because at the end of the day, it's huge and it's pretty heavy, but it's still very capable, I think, as we've shown today. And on things like sand and mud, this thing would be an absolute weapon. You can fit 8 inside, you get a few looks driving around town, and I think this is just a really enjoyable car. If I had to choose between this and a Land Cruiser GR Sport, I'd be taking this every day and pocketing a fair amount of change in the process. This is a great vehicle.
Still to come, it's an affordable EV showdown between the BYD Dolphin, GWM Ora and MG4.
I've got good legroom and I've got good headroom.
Welcome back to Drive Review. Affordable electric cars are a hot commodity, but what do you get for your money? We break down the details of the BYD Dolphin, GWM Ora and MG4.
Now, if you were in the market for a compact car for running around town even 10 years ago, none of these cars would have either been on your radar or part of your consideration. Obviously, MG back then, you were talking a sports car from the 1960s or 70s. BYD has only been in Australia for sort of a bit over 12 months. And GWM, we did know it initially for building utes, but in terms of passenger cars, they're a new player as well. But this is the future of Australian motoring. We're going to see more new brands come to market, and we're going to see more products from these brands.
Our 3 compact, affordable, fully electric cars are the first of a new generation of cost-effective electric transport to hit Australian roads. While all 3 models have variants that start from under $40,000 before on-road costs, our test cars are a little higher in the range and represent the volume sellers from each brand. The BYD Dolphin Premium at $44,890 before on-road costs. It's front-wheel drive and features a 60.5 kilowatt-hour battery, 150 kilowatt and 310 newton-metre output, and has a claimed range of 427 kilometres. For $44,990, you can have an MG4 Excite. This is the only rear-drive option on the table and has a larger 64 kilowatt-hour battery with 150 kilowatt and 250 newton-metre output. The MG464 has a claimed range of 450 kilometres. In the Ora, you're back to a front-drive platform and, with a 63 kilowatt-hour battery and 126 kilowatt 250 newton-metre output, have a claimed range of 420 kilometres.
Let's take our easy-to-spell acronyms from an alphabetical standpoint and hit up the BYD. From the back of the car, though, you can see quite conservatively designed. You've got some pretty cool LED taillights there. The boot in the Dolphin is 345 litres. Now, you may look at that and go, James, come on, I know my litres, that's not 345. But you've got a really handy hideaway cubby down here under the floor that's actually quite deep. But for today, we're going to show you a little bit of context. So, we have our very convenient Australian standard 26-litre esky that we'll put in each of the cars. And as you can see, this will fit in the boot. Not a huge amount of extra space beyond that, but the esky will fit. You've got a hard parcel tray, and we're good to go. Let's check out the back. You've got a stack of knee room here, a stack of kind of movable room, really works that way. It's a big tick. But in terms of height, I'm kind of scooched down here. However, the accommodations back here are really, really lovely. You've got fake leather seats here. You've got these cool LED map lights that you can touch on, touch off. There's an armrest with cup holders here. There is another cubby here in the centre. You've got 2 USBs here, a USB-A and a USB-C. But generally, the back of the Dolphin, unless you're tall, it works pretty well. Okay, well, up front in the Dolphin, the nice quality continues. The steering wheel is adjustable for both reach and tilt. An LCD display here on top of the steering column. There's twin cup holders here. As you can see, fits my coffee quite nicely. You've got another cubby below that, but then underneath here, you've got the USB-C and USB-A plus a charge point and an SD card slot. What is handy, there's a charge pad right up here, works very well, and the screen is kind of a cool thing here. You can do the magic trick of tilty-rolly to go from portrait to landscape and back again. You've got a lot of really nice graphical data there, works really well. Well, next cab off our alphabetical ranks is the GWM, or Great Wall Motors, Ora. Now, fun fact, this car is sold in other markets as the Ora Funky Cat. Check out this tail light up here in the window. It's a bit of a Knight Rider Cylon style thing. Back here, you do have the smallest boot of our 3, 228 litres, but there is, as we saw in the Dolphin, an underfloor storage area where you can put your charging cables and bits and pieces like that. So that is handy. For our standardised Australian test, though, our esky, you've got a deep lip here. It will, if I fold that lid down, it actually fits quite nicely. As in all of our cars, though, you can fold the seats down. The first thing that you'll notice if you are cross-shopping these cars, the bench, still comfy, but not quite as comfy as the Dolphin. And it's a bit lower than the Dolphin too. I don't know if you can see from here, but my feet are on the floor, but my thighs are basically in the air. In terms of accommodations, you do get a USB-A port back here. You do also get an armrest with cup holders. Car like the Ora, it's not trying to do too much. Let's check out the front seat. You've got the twin screen dash here, which looks really slick. You've got the bank of cool rocker switches here. You've got the rotary gear selector here. We've got a faux suede and faux stitched upper dash. So what GWM have tried to do with the Ora is give you something that really does feel like a pretty swish place to be. Our third and final car is the MG4. The boot is the largest of our trio at 350 litres, but it's quite a decent boot. As we put our esky in, you can see it's not only the deepest, but also one of the tallest to fit that in. Let's check out the back. I've got good leg room and I've got good headroom. Now, it's worth noting out that the driver's seat in all three of our cars has been in my driving position. So I'm using a pretty uniform measurement of what the legroom and tow room is like. Well, up front in the MG is just a kind of general, usable, ergonomic layout. It's not trying to be too special, it's just being. What is useful to know though, you do have a height and reach adjustable steering wheel with pretty considerable movement on there. You've got again an LCD display in front of the driver. You've got a nice big screen. Again, you can support Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and all that sort of stuff. What you do have as well is air conditioning, real buttons, volume up and down. You've got a rotary dial here for your gear selector. You've got a really handy tray up here. You've got two cup holders. You've got a hideaway thing, plus a center armrest console. So for practicality, the front of the MG just feels like a regular car. Let's see what they're like out on the road. So I'll jump back into the BYD and we'll see what it's like.
Coming up, we take our affordable EVs on a test drive.
As a kind of comprehensive package of equipment and size and all its things, it is a good little number.
Welcome back to Drive Review. Let's see how the BYD Dolphin, GWM Ora and MG4 handle Melbourne's city streets.
All three of these cars basically do the electric car thing just as well as each other. They all get real world, somewhere between 350 and 400 kilometres range. They're all real world affordable. They're all real world practical in their own little way. The Dolphin feels possibly a little bit heavy. You do feel solid on the road, so it's not a bad thing. But as you're going over bumps and as you're going over speed humps, you can really feel the car move around. Now, we have noted the BYDs don't have a great tyre choice from factory. Generally though, the important stuff is actually all in the right place. You've got pretty good visibility out of the Dolphin. The brakes, you'll feel the regen kick in before you'll feel the car really sort of start to bite and to slow. And I tell you what, the Dolphin, as a kind of comprehensive package of equipment and size and all its things, it is a good little number. Well, stepping into the Ora, especially after stepping straight out of the Dolphin, you can immediately notice the weight difference. It does feel like a lighter car, but that's not a slight on either one. And I tell you what, even just the slight irreverence of the Ora does make it a little bit of a fun car. You do feel that you're in something a little bit different and a little bit special. It's a little bit boomier than what we saw in the Dolphin. You can hear the suspension working, you can hear the tyres just that little bit more, even at urban speeds. That said, it's still substantially quieter than what you would have had out of your old petrol car, especially if this is going to be your first electric offering. For visibility, you have got that higher turret in this car. It is a lot easier to see out the back. In terms of energy efficiency too, it's worth calling out, they are all basically doing what they need to from their claim. They're all about the same. You get about the same range in all the cars because in this urban environment, this is exactly where these cars are designed to operate the best. And it's where you'll find the best use and the best response from whichever electric car you buy. So now the third of our trio, stepping into the MG, which is incidentally the only rear-wheel drive car. It definitely feels the perkiest of our bunch off the line. You've got the most kind of eager and that urban zippy sort of performance that you really want in a car like this becomes immediately apparent. Now we're about to come around to the speed humps that we've seen previously. And what we have found with the MG4, bump up, is bump down, that, okay, you get a little bit of a boom from the rear suspension there, and we have got some camera equipment in the boot, but it just settles. It settles on the up, it settles on the down. It is a very, very resolved car in terms of handling. It's comfortable, it's quiet. It's not sort of doing what we find in some of the SUVs. The MG4 just feels really nice. I got to say, we like the new stuff much more than we like the old stuff. This is a really big change. So if you thought the MG was evolving, this is a step change. But what is worth calling out, between the three of them, the Dolphin is the only car that has an on button. Both the Ora and the MG4, you sort of get in and go. The MG4 with its rotary gear selector has this kind of weird thing at the start that if you get in and stand on the brake pedal, the car thinks that you're trying to stop it and you sort of need to relax a little bit and it tells you that it's ready, but it'll take you a little bit of getting used to. It's just a little bit weird, but from a general appeal, it's not the end of the world in that way. And I have to say, in terms of just get in and go ability, all three of these cars are, perennial golf carts in a way that you just sort of drive them around. but the MG4 does feel the most resolved. All three of these cars give you a pretty good product depending on what's important to you, because when you break it down, the price, the range, the electric capability is pretty uniform between them. But in terms of breaking them out, let's go through the lineup. The BYD gives you the most car for your money. You've got the most equipment, the most features. It sort of works from that point in terms of a value buy. If you want things in your car, take a look at the Dolphin. The Ora is the car that makes the biggest style statement. It's the most irreverent, it's the most fun. It is the funkiest funky cat that, well, certainly of these three. And then there's the MG4. It's the car that gives you legroom and headroom in the back. It gives you height and depth in the boot. It gives you the equipment you need, but not a lot of stuff that you arguably don't, certainly at this price point. It is the vanilla ice cream of the trio, and there's a reason that vanilla ice cream is the most popular flavour. It does everything you need, maybe without a little bit of the flash or the flair of the other two, but from an accessibility standpoint, it gives you a compact, affordable electric car that is available to most Australians. So I think with all three of these, there's not a loser here, but for mine, the MG's the car that takes it just on being the most resolved of all three. Head on over to drive.com.au for the full detailed comparison, all the data, more photos, everything you need. And again, if there's anything that you want to know about the new electric cars on the market or any other car on the market, make sure you visit us at drive.com.au.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of Drive Review. For even more details on any of our tested cars, head on over to drive.com.au.